I'm Diego Cordovez.
Adam Schoenfeld.
Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Today we have a special guest. We always say special, but this is genuinely special.
Just well, back maybe from if you didn't cry wolf on all the other boring shows,
just back from a triumphant European tour, final table of the WSOP. And when he won 2 bracelets in his debut at the World Series, he was the youngest guy ever to do that. And he's had a lot of other big cashes at the World Series, and he's a guy who, in the big live tournaments, he's done really well, but online, he's been around and won trillions of dollars.
I like this Fischman kid. He's a good kid.
Scott Fischman is his name. We like to bring all the facts and then surprise with the name. Sometimes we forget to say the name. Scott Fischman. So you just got back from London, World Series of Poker Europe, which I remember Benny Binion telling me years ago this was his dream that he contemplated back in the 70s. That
Europe, Asia.
One day. But for those of us who didn't go, was this just like the World Series here, or how different was it?
Yeah, it didn't really feel like it.
Everything?
To me, really, I had such a bad year at the World Series. I didn't really play that much, but when I got there, it didn't have the feel, you know. I think I just went there for one tournament, and, you know, normally I would get there, play everything, da-da-da. But, you know, I was like, you know, the World Series is over for me this year. So I just kind of was like, oh, it's a good tournament. I like London. And, you know, I just...
So one tournament, and you made the final table in the main event.
And it really didn't feel like it the whole time, really. I mean, I don't know, it was just...
We always talk about the main event here being a unique tournament because there's so many weak players.
Yeah.
It's such a different style of play, so much more of passive style. Now, Europeans have the reputation for not being passive.
Yeah,
at least at a poker table, maybe in.
Well, was the field a lot tougher? Because
the field was. It wasn't as tough. I mean, I got really lucky with my table draws, but I mean, you do have a lot of scandies, and you sit down. You sit down, and
the Scandinavians are nuts.
Scandies, yeah.
Is that
like
polite terminology?
I'm not sure I'm going to use that. They don't mind. Scandi?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't mind, I don't think.
Right.
I mean...
so a lot of Scandies.
A lot of Scandies. You sit down and...
Northern European idiots.
You have to
quoting Phil Hemmeth.
They don't talk a lot either. You have to make them say something so you know where they're from, because it could just be any guy. And if
any
they're
skinny
from, like,
blonde kid.
Right. So you get down and you try and make them talk, and as soon as you hear them, what is?
Right.
You know, you're like, oh, okay. Right. So... You know,
we should have to have their screen names too.
Dude, I said that at the World Series. All the young kids, they should have to give their ID and their screen name. That would be great. But yeah, the World Series here, there's so much hype and there's so much expectation, and you look forward to it all year, and it's so big, and there's so many people. But
there are also so many guys who satellited in, and guys who were just taking their one shot.
There were satellite guys there too, though, right?
There was from Betfair. 2 of them made the final table, I think. One guy was in on a free roll. But here's the difference, right? The difference is, in the World Series, the people that are in for free are really like, they have no clue. Because there's so many chances to get in.
Right.
But this guy was like the only guy that got on a free roll. He was like aggressive. You know,
he
was
fought his way. Yeah.
He was making the he was making the right mistakes. Yeah. Right. He wasn't easy to play against. He was like... He check-raised me on the river one time, this guy, when we had like 3 tables left. And I thought for a long time, I made an ace on the river and value bet it. He check-raised me on the river. This is before I knew he was a qualifier. And he check-raised me. I was like, I really should have folded, but I was like, and he shows like 6 high.
That's
you know, that's the qualifier that made the final table. There you go. It's a little bit different.
So you finished just... Would you finish
6th?
Okay.
6th, yeah.
With a tough final table. I mean, a real star-studded final table.
It was, yeah. The 2 Russian unknowns.
One of whom was at the main event final table.
Ivan Demidov. Yeah, he's a really nice guy. Really talented. Really knows the game. Really has a lot of gears. I was rooting for him.
John Juan and Daniel Negreanu both.
Right.
There.
John. Yep.
Now I read about a decisive hand, or it seemed to be a decisive hand, and I don't know, sometimes it's not always reported accurately, but it seemed like a fascinating...
never reported accurately, by the way.
Sometimes.
That's 100% true.
It's 100% inaccurate. Go ahead.
Okay. It'd be more fun if they were as reported a lot of times, but it was it sounded fascinating to me, because we all know that final table, you're going to be re-stealing a lot. Guys are stealing and the best plays to catch them. But they reported a big hand where a guy raised, another player re-raised, and you came in cold for 3-bets, for a big 3-bet, no limit. But you were on a bluff. I mean, you had a garbage
10
hand, 10 deuce, and you ended up getting involved. And of course, if it's reported accurately, it's fascinating because when you've got a raise and a re-raise, you've got to have a really good line on these guys, or something else is going on.
Well, what it was actually was we were down to like 3 tables, I think. I was doing really well in chips. I had like 600 about at the time, and the blinds were like 2,000 and 4,000. I had played with Ivan previous to this, getting to this table. I had not played with Brian Townsend, who ended up being the guy in the middle. But you know, I have some
another big name.
I have some previous information about him. You know, I already know he's a good player,
and he's an online
I mean, I know he's not just some idiot that's going to call with jacks no matter what.
Right.
You know, basically. So I came in for 11,000, and there was some prehistory as of the guy's blind that I was raising. Like the last 3 rounds, every time somebody raised his blind, it went like raise, squeeze. Like, so the guy, it was like, you know. So there was some history there. So I came in for 11. Brian makes it 28. He has like 200K. Ivan makes it 56, which is a min re-raise. And he has like 450.
So they have the perfect stacks to make a laydown.
Right.
Which is a key consideration.
Basically, instantly I knew that Ivan was going to play for Brian's stack, but didn't want to get involved with me. Period. That was just instant, 100%, no doubt in my mind. So when it came back around to me, you know, now there's X amount in the pot, which is a lot, and I know Ivan's folding, 100%. And you know what? If Brian has kings or aces, then he has kings or aces. He can even lay down kings. He thought for 10 minutes. He didn't want to call kings.
And he can't hurt your stack that much.
No. He has 200K and I have 600. So, and we're playing 2-4. So if I lose the pot, I have 100 BBs. You know, come on. And it didn't even cross my mind to not do the play.
And he had 2 jacks, as it turns out.
He had kings.
Oh, kings.
Yeah, he thought for
really.
But there's no way he's going to lay down. Even though you're unlucky that he actually had kings, because he would have laid down jacks.
He would have laid down anything but kings or aces. Yeah. If I was in a seat, I would have laid down kings. I would have. 100%. With 200K and 4,000.
Right. And you're making a super strong move again. You
what's the percent of time that you're going to see? Well, Scott Fischman can have it like 25% of the time as a bluff, but a normal player in that spot, it's going to be a bluff like 2% of the time.
And even 25% could be high. I mean, that's a strong
I know.
play. You know, with that stage against those players.
No, it's almost never a bluff.
What was I mean, obviously, the risk against Brian is totally understandable because, you know, he's in the middle. He could have a strong hand, but
he could
his life is on the line. And if he does get in there, you can still win. But if you don't,
of course.
it's not knocking you way down. But what was your read on Ivan that made you so confident? Because that's the real risk. This is the guy putting in the extra risk.
I just knew. I just knew that he didn't want with his raise size.
Okay.
I just knew that he didn't want to play against my
the size of his raise looks like he's trying to isolate against Brian, and
I mean, it also looks like he's representing aces.
Right.
You know, but no good player does that. And I already knew he was a good player. I already logged some hours with him at the table. And when it went 28-56.
Well, they don't represent aces if they have aces.
That's my point, right? So it just no good player would have aces there. No good player.